For folks that might be joining late, there will be a replay available. But for those of you who are here now, I don't want to delay. I want to get started. So thanks for joining. We're going to go through today your 2024 digital marketing plan for paving companies. And so our plan for the session is first, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about some new challenges that we see for 2024. Then we're going to get into setting kind of clear goals and targets for the year. Realign KPIs and tracking, which is nerd talk for let's know what our numbers are and let's measure them so we know what we're doing. And then we will map out a plan for accomplishment. What do you need to focus on? And just basically set you up for success in 2024 and beyond. So that's the plan. And we do have a resource here, a workbook for you to go along with. So you can go to pavingmarketers.com/2024-planner and download it and kind of work through it as we go. There is some extra material in there that I won't cover in the presentation here, so you may find it helpful. Or you can download it later and do a replay or just work through it memory, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to sit here and go through it on the call here. It's there for you as a resource, so use it as you wish. And so I'll just talk for a minute about who am I and why should you listen to me. So I am the author of Online Marketing for Paving Companies. We're an associate member of NAPA, founder of Paving Marketers, which is the #1 marketing agency that works just with paving companies. And before that, I founded and I still own one of the top digital marketing agencies in the Midwest. We've got over 600 5-star reviews. I've been doing this for over 10 years. So just have a ton of experience over time. And then specifically, we work with just dozens and dozens of paving companies. So we know the industry very well. We know what works very well for paving guys. Tons of clients. Just an example of them there. And so before we get started, I do have a free bonus for you if you're interested in it. So go to this web address. That's offers.pavingmarketers.com/getmoreestimates. And you just give us your email there. We already have it. You're on the webinar, but that's just how you get through the gate. And there's a couple things there for you. There's a marketing checklist. And so it's just a simple one-page sheet. We can kind of go through and check things off and just make sure, hey, have I done this? Have I done that? It gives you kind of just a simple format to work on this yourself, make some improvements yourself. There's also a digital copy of my book, which is Online Marketing for Paving Companies. You can also buy it on Amazon if you want. But why would you do that if you can have it for free? What is super neat on this page is there is a link to our industry PPC dashboard. And what that means is basically what we do is we track and crawl and record data on the top 25 markets in the US, which paving companies are running ads, what ads are they running, what keywords are they running, and we make all this public. So you can see the ads that are running in New York and Chicago, whatever the markets are. You can see what people are running. You can see the keywords. So there's a ton of data in there. You can get a ton of great ideas. And we update it 4 times a day. So it's a great resource. I strongly encourage you to check it out. It's very useful information as you think about how you want to run your own PPC campaigns. And then there's another thing in there, which I'm calling, Paving Marketers University. And we're not done yet. I was hoping to have this done in Q4 2023. I'm running out of time. I don't think it'll get it done by then. But it's really a set of guides and videos and trainings for how you can implement a lot of this stuff yourself. And when that's done, I'll probably charge for it or include it in some other, some other things that we'll be releasing next year. But for now, if you sign up, through this link, you will get access free when it rolls out. And for now, it'll give you like maybe a 12-week email sequence of just tips and things that you can do to get more estimates, get more calls. Okay, so check that out, offers.pavingmarketers.com/getmoreestimates. Okay. So I want to talk now about new challenges in 2024. So these are based on things that just we've seen going on in the market and that I think that you should be aware of. And so the first one is that Google is increasingly aggressive in verifications and suspensions. And we've had a great customer of ours, been with us a long time, who got hit by this. And it was absolutely awful. Dealing with Google is a nightmare. And they just would not listen. The company's been in business for decades. They're a great company, great people. But Google was just giving them a hard time, took down the Google business profile, wouldn't let them run. It was just a disaster. And they didn't do anything. Google will just randomly pick you sometimes. It's like you're getting stopped at the airport or something. I don't know. I don't know how they come up with it, but it happens. And so that's not even doing anything. But there are ways to trigger these things. And so don't make changes. And I'll probably talk about this a bit later, but just be aware of this. Be careful making changes. If you do them, just be prepared that you may get a suspension. It might take a couple weeks to get it worked out, or even a month. It took us a while. And the main thing here is make sure that your information is accurate and don't change it without a good reason. Okay. Another big trend that we've seen recently is that Google continues to reduce proximity in maps. So what does that mean? When you're in Google Maps, you get a certain kind of radius around your address where you're more likely to show up. And what we've been seeing is that Google is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking that down. And they will claim that they're doing this to deliver a better user experience. But we all know what they're really doing is they're trying to get you to buy ads. And to prove that, they are also, in some searches, we're seeing this increasingly, they are replacing some of those organic map spots with ads now. And so when you look at a Google Maps result, the first result or two results you might see are actually sponsored links. It's never going to stop with Google. There's very little you can do about it. So our recommendations are to deal with this are really twofold. You may need to add additional office locations. And I don't know if we're going to get into, I don't think we're going to get too deep into verification here, but basically the best chance you have to get verified and have a legitimate Google business profile these days is to have an actual office location that you can provide visual evidence of. So if you're thinking about, hey, I really need more leads from maps, or there's an area that I'm not doing as much business as I'd like, and it's at least 15 miles away from existing GBP, you've got to give some space. Think about investing in an office location there. $500 a month is worth it if it drives business for you. And the other thing you should consider, and we will strongly recommend, is that you're going to have to start running ads. Now, I've heard from many of you that you've had a bad experience running Google ads, and I totally get it. However, our experience with running Google ads, and we know what we're doing generally, is if you do it right, you can get fantastic results. You just can. You got to spend enough. You can't nickel and dime it. You've got to just be prepared to make that investment. But if you do that, and we're talking, it's minimum $1,000 a month. You can do more, but often you don't need to do more than that. And it will pay itself back in leads and projects. So keep it in the back of your mind. If you're not running ads now, it's something you're eventually really going to want to do as more and more people look to Google, the new yellow pages, to find a paving company. That's just how it's going to be. Another thing that we've seen is Google is aggressively sweeping out fake reviews and unfortunately eliminating real ones along with them. So there were 2 or 3 different sweeps recently that we saw. It impacted our customers, and it stinks. It can be hard to get reviews. I mean, with paving, certainly the paving jobs, you don't necessarily have the volume as some of the other home services type businesses like plumbers or stuff where you just get thousands of reviews. So it hurts when they do that. And reviews are absolutely critical for your mass rankings. It's the strongest thing. If you hear nothing else to say today, go get more reviews. It's that important. And so unfortunately, the only thing you can do to counteract this is to have a system in place to get more reviews and to consistently get reviews and make sure you're doing that month over month. It's extremely critical. You got to do it. Okay. And then the last thing here is talk a little bit about AI. So you're probably hearing about it. It's having a huge impact on the industry overall, but I think it's really limited to marketers at this point. I don't know if we're seeing it kind of outside this kind of nerdy techno bubble quite yet. And so I would say it's really the wild, wild west right now. Avoid it unless you know what you're doing. And I'm relatively well informed on this stuff. And there are tools that I've tried that I came back to a month later. I'm like, well, I'll give this another look. And it was completely different. It had completely different feature sets, different engines running it. It's absolutely nuts. So approach AI with caution. I don't think it's going to destroy the world, at least not in the short term. But as far as can it do things to help you? Probably not yet. My answer might be different next year. So join this call next year and we'll see if things have changed. But it's a huge thing to watch. It's a game changer, and we'll see how that ends up. Okay, so let's move right along. I want to talk now about setting clear goals. Okay, and what are your goals for 2024? We have a nice festive Christmassy picture here. It's the season for that, and if you're like me at all, you're thinking about the new year, and this year's kind of winding down. You might be off season. You might not be running stuff right now. But you're thinking about how you want next year to go. I certainly am. I'm making plans for my various businesses and thinking about how I want to grow them and what investments I'm going to have to make to do that. And it's a really important process that I do on an ongoing basis, but particularly at the end of the year. And I found it to be very helpful, without a doubt. And if you don't do that, if you don't kind of set goals and think about it and kind of plan what you're doing, you're kind of like a ship adrift with no wind. I was just rewatched Master and Commander yesterday, so the timing is funny on the slide here. They were adrift at one point in that movie with no wind, and they were not in good shape. But when you do set clear goals, it's like wind in your sails. It drives you forward, and it drives you forward in a direction that you can kind of control because you've planned for it and you've budgeted for it and you've done the things that you need to do to be moving forward in that direction that you plan for. And so to do this, if you're going to have a plan, and you're going to track it, you really have got to make it measurable. And so I want you to think about these things. And here's some examples. It'll may be different in your business depending on the various things that you do, but broadly, it's the same. What is your average monthly revenue? What's the typical number of jobs or projects you run per month? Another key metric to think of is average sale or average project. What's your average residential? What's your average commercial? Obviously there's a wide range, but use averages. You got to use averages here to do this stuff. What's your average conversion rate? You get a lead. What percent of those leads become estimates? What percent of those estimates do you sell and become projects? How many crews are you running? If you increase your business by so much, at what point do you need to hire another crew? These are all things you have to consider as you make your plan, but you want to make it as simple as possible at this point, just to get a baseline idea in place of what you need to produce. And when I'm doing this, I also think ahead at least one, and I think ahead 2 or 3 years. But when you're thinking about 2024, also think about 2025. What are you doing in 2025? Are you still kind of on a growth kick? Are you getting near the end of where you want to move out of the business, maybe move to someone else in the family, think about selling it? At some point, you're going to run into that discussion, and so you want to think ahead towards that. So when you think about then 2025, what annual revenue target do you have in 2025, and what number of crews are going to need to support that? Hiring people is awful. We hear all the time how hard it is to find people. And if you're going to need more crews, then you probably want to get some processes in place to start getting that pipeline of potential workers ready now. And then you also want to think about, why are you doing all this? Why do you do this work? I know why I do it. It's for my family and for my kids. I got plenty of kids. I'm getting a little gray in my beard, and I'm thinking about what's coming next for them. And so that's why I do these things. And I'm sure you have similar or maybe different reasons. But whatever those reasons are, that's what's motivating doing this work. And you want to consider that as you do this. So I have another resource for you. If you go to pavingmarketers.com/2024-worksheet, it's a little calculator similar to what I use. But it allows you to kind of do that back of the envelope calculation to think about what your numbers might look like. And so if you look at the example here, you set your annual revenue goal, let's say it's 2.5 million, and that's going to give you a monthly revenue target of 208,000. Now, this isn't seasonal. This is just spread it out across the year. Pretend you're in Florida or something. And then how many projects, says service calls here. I've got a couple versions of it, but how many projects at your average project revenue of say 4,500 will it take to hit that monthly revenue target? Okay. And then this is where knowing your data comes in handy, because if you know your conversion from leads or estimates to, a booked project, say you sell 55% of your estimates, put that in there. Now you need 84 leads in this case to get those 46 projects to hit your monthly revenue targets. And if you happen to know what your cost per lead is, and here $40 is reasonable if you have a pretty good digital marketing program going on, then you know that you're going to have to think about spending at least $3,400 per month to generate the leads that you're going to need to get to that monthly revenue target. And so now, as you're thinking about your budgets for next year, all right, I need to earmark this much amount of money if I'm going to generate this amount of leads. Okay. So that's the idea of this worksheet. It's a very, very helpful tool. All right. So I want to take a minute and think about that here, just in the back of your mind before I move on. What is your goal for 2024, and how many leads will you need monthly to get there? How many projects are you going to need to sell? Are you thinking about moving into different businesses? Maybe you've mostly been doing seal coating. Maybe you want to move into paving, or doing more asphalt stuff that you might subcontract to another company that you know. So you'll get a little bit of margin on it, but you're not going to buy all the equipment. But you'd like to maybe get some of those leads and just have some of that business that might turn into more seal coating jobs. There's a lot of different ways that people do this, but you want to think about what are your goals and what are some things that you can do to meet them. And I'll pause just for a second here to check if there's any questions in the chat. Give me a second here to respond to something. And if you have questions, I do want this to be interactive. So drop your questions in the chat. We have Jason on here. He'll be in the chat. He can answer your questions. And, I will address them as I go through this also. I don't see anything right now, so I will continue. So the second page of this worksheet, or the second tab, I should say, is a marketing budget planner that gets into much more detail from a planning and forecasting perspective. And so you put your revenue in there in the top, and then you set your marketing budget. And people ask us this all the time. Well, what should our marketing budget be? It's a great question. If you look online, you'll see something like the Small Business Administration say something crazy like 2 to 3% of your gross revenue, and that's ridiculous. No, that's not going to work. It's not going to be enough, and that's not a growth spend. And so don't listen to them. They have no idea what they're talking about. The typical government, they have no clue. So ignore them. What we see and what we recommend is as a rule of thumb, go with 10% of your annual revenue when you're making your budgeting. 10%. Now, if you want to be really aggressive, 15%. I have some people tell me 20%. Gosh, that's hard. They got to have great margins to do that. Sometimes we see investors will spend that, but all in all, 10%. You can go down to 5 if you have to, but I wouldn't try to get to 10. It's the fuel that's going to drive you forward. That's going to let you hit your objectives. Okay, this will let you be more choosy about your projects. When you have a lower amount of leads coming in, you may have to pick smaller margin jobs, farther out, longer drive away, farther from the asphalt, or whatever. If you have many more leads coming in, you can be a bit more picky and choosy. And you can be a bit more picky and choosy, you're going to have better margins, which again is going to help support that higher spend on market. So it's a good cycle to be in. Okay. And then you can just work through this sheet. And again, this is not set up seasonally. I could set it up where you could, make it seasonal, but it's autofill, but you can adjust these numbers as you see fit. It's just a tool to play around with to get some idea. But take that 10%, break it into online and offline marketing. If you send postcards or do drops, or people do all kinds of things, put that in your budget and plan it out. And if, spend that money, invest it in your marketing. If you know your targets and you know the estimates you need to get there, and so you know the leads you need to get those estimates, and you know what your cost per lead is, you know what budget you need to spend to get there, and you spend that budget, and you tweak it along the way, but at least you're kind of set up to succeed, and you can adjust it from there. Okay, so it's a great tool. I highly recommend using it. That's what I'm doing right now for my businesses, and that's why I recommend it to you. So let's talk now about your marketing strategy. Okay, so what are you going to do with this budget? How are you going to attack the market? And we have this picture here. I think it's a good one. It's basically 9 clear steps to triple your sales over time by getting your internet marketing right. So what does this mean? There are really 3 phases of things that you need to do. First of all, you need to drive leads. So you got to get people to pick up the phone and call you or fill out your forms to ask for those estimates. And so to do that, you have to get traffic, and that's going to come from organic or maps. It's going to come from paid search. It's going to come from referrals or repeat business. A lot of you, that's where you get most of your work. And it can come from your database of customers. So sending emails to previous customers, all that kind of stuff. So first you drive leads. Then you've got this traffic coming. Now what do? You've got want to maximize your conversion of that traffic into leads. Okay. And so there's various things you have to do that. We'll get into that, but really you need a good website, need to take care of your online reputation, which means getting reviews, making sure you have reviews and doing all of that kind of stuff. And then once you've driven leads and maximized conversion, then you look at the data and you optimize your results. So for our customers, every month we look at the leads that came in, we look at the cost per lead, and we together as a team think about how can we drive down this cost. I want your cost per lead to be as low as it possibly can be, because that means your jobs are more profitable. Your margins can be tight as it is. You want them to be as profitable as they can be. And it increases your return on investment. And when it increases your return on investment, you have more marketing to spend. So you go back and you drive more leads and you look at your conversion. What can I do to improve my conversion rate? Optimize results. So you keep working through this process. And this is, in a very basic sense, what you need to do to triple your sales over time. That's it. It's there's nothing more to it than that. Now, it sounds easy. It's not simple. Okay. So as you think about your strategy, what I want you to think about is, where do you need to focus most? What is your problem? We've had customers who we help them and they get the leads, and then we discover that they're not particularly good at answering their phone. So they think they're not getting leads, but they're really just not answering the phone calls. They're missing the calls, or they're not answering the calls in a professional enough manner. So you got to think through your entire process. You have to be very self-critical and figure out the things that you can be doing better and focus on those things. And so if you don't have a ton of leads, then you need to focus on traffic. You need to focus on developing that traffic. If you seem to have good traffic, but you're not getting great results, then you need to focus on your conversion. And if you know your cost per lead and it's way too high, then you need to focus on optimizing those results and driving down that cost per lead. And so, that's what's going to help you decide what your strategy is. And now when you think about traffic and you think about these things, I know this is kind of hard to see, there are tons of sources for all of these things. You can do SEO, you can do, Google ads, you can retarget people visit your website and get visitors that way. There's all kinds of stuff. There's pay-per-lead things like Angie. They all have a place. And so just you think about what you're doing, maybe what you're not doing, and maybe what you should start doing. Okay, but what it all comes down to it at the bottom line is your website. You've got to have a website these days. It is the hub. It is the best thing you have control over, that you can help get those leads from online visitors and turn them into customers. So don't neglect your website. And these days, most people have them. But if you don't, you got to get one. It's just one of those things where people will check it out. If you don't have it, they won't want to call you. And there's no reason to lose business over that. Okay, so take your website very seriously. So I want to talk a second but why is conversion so important? So when we talk about this conversion, what does that mean? Basically, conversion is increasing the chance that someone who visits your website takes the action you want them to take. And the difference is huge. So if you have 250 visitors per month, say you're paying for that traffic. Okay, so you've paid the same in both scenarios to get those visitors to your site. But in scenario one, you get a 6% conversion rate. Say this is paid traffic, Google ads. And in scenario two, you get an 18% conversion. So you triple your conversion percentage. What does that do? If you look at the bottom, go through the book jobs and your average transactions, get the revenue. Tripling your conversion rate triples your leads and revenue. For the same amount of spend, you're going to get 3 times the revenue back out of it. So it's a huge deal. And I don't hear people talking about it enough. It's something you should test. It's something that matters. And so how do we optimize for conversion? What do you do? And that's a huge question, but I've got some basics here to cover. And so I'll address those really quickly, just to give you an idea of the sort of things that you can be thinking about. You want to speak to your target avatar, and that's just marketing nerd speak for understand who your customer is and talk to them. Don't talk to somebody else. If your customers are high-end driveways outside of town, talk to those people. If you don't want to drive into the city for the really short driveways, don't talk to those people. You got to kind of, when someone visits your site, it should resonate with them in some degree. And this is hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy, But for example, for us, when you visit my website, if you're on a paving company and you're on pavingmarketers.com, you know I'm talking to you because my marketing company serves paving companies. That's it. It's simple things like that, but it makes a huge difference. Okay. Next one is be real. Use authentic images of your team on the homepage throughout the website, yourself, your staff, working on projects, doing these things. People want to know who they're considering doing business with. They want to see you. That's why I do these videos in parts so people can get to know me. It matters. If people don't want to deal with somebody who's fly by night, there's those people out there doing that stuff. We've heard it from our own customers that they're out there causing problems. Well, customers don't want to work with those people either, and they're always concerned that that's going to happen to them. So let them get to know you. Just be real. It makes people comfortable. No one likes all this sanitized PC marketing nonsense. Everybody hates it. And so don't do it. Just try to be real as best you can. Okay. Use video, multimedia stuff to engage different people want to watch videos. Different people want to go on social media. I'm not a social media guy, so I have someone on my team who takes my rambling at the camera and they puts it on social media. People watch it apparently. You know, give people the ability to engage in the way that they want, and they're going to be more likely to call you. Leverage social proof. That means get your reviews on your website, get some case studies on there, get some testimonials, show your before and afters of your projects. These things matter a lot to people who don't know you. They're going to look at that stuff, and it matters. Get the basics in order. Make it easy for people to contact you. I'll have some examples of this in the next slides. But make your phone number visible. Ensure there's a web form that people can use. And I would even add to this, put some chat on your website. People like to chat, especially these younger kids. They're all about text messaging. I don't want to text message a business, but younger people do. Makes no sense to me, but hey, I gotta give my customers what they want. If they want to text my company, then I'm gonna let them text my company. They're not gonna get me, but they'll text somebody. I'm okay with that. So ensure you have clear calls to action on each page. Again, if someone's coming to your site and you do seal coating, they're looking for someone who's going to do seal coating. Let them understand that you do an excellent job of seal coating and that you're going to help them. And you're trustworthy. You've been doing business for a long time, and you have a better chance of getting that lead. Higher conversion rate. Okay. Use special offers and coupons if needed. Look at the Google ads, go to that industry PPC dashboard, see if people are making offers on things. What's the offer? Use the offer if it's happening in your area. And if you talk to us, we get on a call together. We'll look at your area, we'll see what's going on, and we can talk through that with you. And last thing I'll say, site speed matters kind of. I mean, it matters. Your site can't take 50 seconds to load, but if it takes 5, I mean, people aren't that crazy about their attention span is not that dead yet, but it could get there. If you hear barking in the background, there must be a delivery man at the door. It's my dog. So site speed matters. Now let's move on to some examples. So here's just one. You got a clear form. It's kind of hard to see, but you have a phone number in the upper right-hand corner. You got click to calls. You know where they are. You know what they do, and you can, if you want to chat with them, there's chat. If you want to, can't see it here. If you want to use a forum, there's a forum. If you want to pick up the phone and call them, it's there. So however the potential customer of you, want to contact you, it's all there ready to go. And if I want to dig in and find out about your services or your work or learn more a little bit about you, it's all there and it's visible. Right there, I can move to it. It's a good example. Be real and authentic. Show your crew. There they are. That's who's going to show up and do your project. And people like seeing that. Like, all right, these guys look like they know what they're doing. I would not pave my own driveway, but I'd let these guys do it. And leverage video multimedia. So you can't see this here, but there's a background video going behind this one. Kind of captures attention. I find myself, even though I know better, I watch the video to see what happens. It's just a silly background video, but it does capture people's attention. Again, showcase social proof. So get some reviews on there. Talk about your experience, talk about your service, talk about any awards that you have. Again, the more you give people, the more comfortable they're going to be picking up that phone and calling you. As I mentioned, leverage that live chat. There's plenty of people who like chatting. In fact, we've seen in some cases When people have implemented chat, they've seen their leads go up 15 to 20%. And those are all people coming in from chat. Doesn't happen that way every time, but there's a market out there that just wants to chat. And so give them that option. Your website has to be mobile friendly. Most of them are fairly straightforward. It usually happens by this point, but you'd be surprised. Doesn't always happen. It's important. And so here's just a little checklist. If you go to the planner that I talked about early on, you'll find this in there. Just go through it. Just check it out. Check these things through. Make sure you're covering your bases here. Okay. And I'm going to pause here to give you a second. Takeaways, what you learn, what you notice, anything you'd like to share, drop them in the chat. And I'll just give you about 30 seconds to do that. And I'll check to see if I have any messages here. Okay, sorry, I just had to respond to that. Let's check my messages here. All right, looks like we are good. And again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to stop me. I like to answer those questions and just help you understand these things. It's very important. All right, let's move right along. Now we'll get into some of the more technical stuff. You may have questions about this. If you do, don't wait. Just drop them in as you think of them, and I will take further breaks to take a look. So let's talk a little bit about SEO, and does SEO still matter? And it absolutely does. And so if you look at it at a search result, and this is a pretty good example, the vast majority of clicks go to the maps and the first couple organic results. And the rest of them go to the ads. I mean, people do not go to page 2. They just don't. And so it is still important to do SEO. And if you look at this slide here, we keep track of the leads that we generate. And so I just pulled this data a couple days ago. Between December 2022 and November 2023, we drove for our customers over 15,000 leads for paving companies. It's a lot of paving jobs. And so we have, I don't think anyone else has this data. We have fantastic data about where leads come from for paving companies. You won't find this anywhere else. And what we find is this is where they come from. And so, and we'll come back to this as we go through these other things, but 18% of the leads come in from organic SEO. So what is organic SEO? That's stuff below the ads and the maps. So that's still a significant amount. Almost 20%, 1 out of 5 leads are coming in from organic search. And so it definitely matters. You can't just rely on PPC. Google can't freeze you out and just make you pay entirely. And so it matters. So what do you do? This is a set of keywords. And you want to cover, you're not going to do all of these, but just to give you some thinking about it, the most important one, say for your homepage, is probably a paving company near me. Could be, there's variations. If you're only doing asphalt, you might want to highlight asphalt paving, but that's not necessarily the term that customers use. We see customers use blacktop. They probably, when they talk to you, they probably say blacktop a lot of the time. So you can't cover everything, but the key thing here is that the categories that Google uses for maps, you want to reflect them on your website. So the number one category is paving contractors. And so if you do asphalt and concrete or other stuff, you're a paving contractor. If you only do asphalt, and that's seal coating, that's crack filling, that's asphalt paving, I would lead with asphalt contractor. There's also concrete contractor, and they roll out more. I think there's even like line striping now. I'm not sure. There's like road construction company. There's all these crazy ones. But you want to stick with the top ones. The top ones are paving company, paving contractor, asphalt contractor, concrete contractor. Those are the ones you want to focus on. And you want to build pages for each of the services that you do. You want to have a page for driveway paving because that's its own thing, right? You want to have one for parking lot paving. That's a big one. You want to get those commercial jobs. You want to have one for seal coating if you do seal coating. You want to have one for crack filling. Don't just have a single services page because it ties your hands for organic SEO. Have a page for the main services that you offer that's by itself, that's focused on that service. Okay, and I understand that driveway paving is in many ways the same as parking lot paving, but to the customer, it's not. And so you want to use that difference to go after that traffic and make sure you're talking to that avatar, right? Your residential avatar is not the same as your commercial avatar. They're different people. They have different objectives. They have different budgets. And you definitely want to be talking to the commercial guy on your site because he's the one who's going to give you that $75,000 parking lot project. You're not going to get a driveway like that all too often. Okay. So on-site optimization, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. There's lots of information on Google, some of it good, some of it horrible, about on-site optimization, but really just make your page about the service, use the keywords that matter. And, there's tools, like if you have a WordPress website, there's things like Yoast, I think it's called, or Rank Math. Those are decent enough. We don't use them because we use more advanced tools, but you can pop that on your site and use it. It'll get you close enough, at least get you in shooting range, and we can always help you from there, or anybody, but we know paving. Talk for a second about off-page SEO. So these are things like your Google business profile listing. We'll talk more about that in maps. Citations we'll talk about in maps. Building backlinks to your site, it's important, kind of. If you've been in a paving business for a long time, you're going to have links. You're going to have domain authority. You should be all right. If you're a new entrant, starting a new company, you're going to want to have some budget to buy some links, to build some authority. But even then, I would focus on more local stuff. All things being equal, the company that has more links is probably going to rank better, but usually all things are not equal. And so links are overrated. They matter to an extent, but once you get enough of them, it's just whatever. It's nothing. So I would not make this a huge focus. Again, it's 20% of your leads. I would focus on the maps and the PPC first. And when you have that stuff cranking, come back and really chase that SEO. You don't want to neglect it, but it's not where I would make my first investments. Okay. As far as building links, what I would look for is try to build local. It helps you in the maps too. So think about your suppliers in the area, maybe the asphalt plant, maybe they'll link back to you. They probably won't, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Partners, maybe your buddies with a plumbing company. See if you can exchange links. Like, hey, let me put a blog post in my article saying, hey, I really recommend Bob's Plumbing. They did a great job at my house, and Bob can give you a link back. Now, Google frowns on those things, but not really. It's not unnatural. You're talking about a local business. It's not some weird linking scheme. You're just saying, hey, we recommend each other's businesses. There's nothing wrong with that. Vendors, chambers of commerce. There's all kinds of sources for local links. Build them where you can. Do a scholarship for local school, or whatever. There's tons of ideas, but those are the kinds of ones that I would focus on. This is just some more details, things you can do. Content's overrated. You want some to be topically authoritative, but you're not, what happens, this happens to our clients. We do publish content for them. And what happens is they end up ranking like 700 miles away too. They get a very good ranking for a national keyword. And now they're getting calls for projects 14 states away. I mean, that's awesome, but it's not particularly helpful. So content helps to some degree, but when you hear people say content, it has its purpose, it has its use, it's important, but again, I'd be focusing on maps and PPC first, and I'd come back and I'd crush organic SEO after that. Okay, so is your website optimized for search engine rankings? Go back to the planner. There's some information there for you to check off. And again, we'll go here for questions. I don't see anything new in the chat, so I'm just going to keep cruising right along. And now I want to talk about ranking on the Google map. And I'm going to ask, do Google Maps matter? And you already know, of course, the answer is yes, of course, Google Maps matter. And if I go back to our over 15,000 leads for paving companies over the last year, Google Maps is the #1 source of leads for paving companies. Over a third of the leads are coming from maps. And that's huge. So this is extremely critical. This is the #1 place that you focus on, okay? Because they're free. Once you got maps presence, they're not charging you to call that phone. It's fantastic. Okay, so yes, Google Maps matter. So how do you rank in maps? Here's the basic idea. First thing is You have got to optimize your Google business profile. Fill it all out, accurate information, accurate address, show an address if you can. You use the right category, asphalt contractor, paving contractor, fill out your hours, fill out everything. This is Google's playground. It's their property. If they ask you for the information, give it to them. Give them your service areas. Fill it out completely. Okay. It might seem stupid. I think it is stupid in many cases. People don't look at a lot of it, but Google does, and they're the one you're trying to make happy. So fill it out completely. It's very important. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee here. So after that, what do? You have to build up authority and relevance to that profile. And so you get citations. And all citations are as a special name for links that have your name, address, phone, NAP links. Okay, you'll hear them referred to as that. And so these are things like Yelp, City Search, if that's even a thing. I mean, there's tons. I don't even know what they are. My team does it. I'm getting old and my brain is getting fuzzy. I don't remember them all, but there's lots of them. You want to build those, okay? Citations, these matter. But once you built them, they don't matter anymore. They're not magic. There's just kind of a baseline set that you do, and then you kind of forget about it. Okay. Local content. These are things we write a lot of content about landmarks. What this does is if you have on your website, think about landmarks in your area. Say you write 5 articles about the football stadium, maybe a historic church, maybe there's a park that everybody loves. I mean, just whatever. Think of like 5 things in your area. If you write an article about them, that's a good article, not just junk. But if you write an article on your website, it doesn't have to be front and center, tuck it away in the corner where people don't see it, but have it on there. That tells Google that your paving company is relevant to that area. And so it helps you show up in maps in that area. That's one of the things you do to expand your maps presence is you become locally relevant. So have local content. It matters. Google it's not the Terminator. It's not smart. It's just a dumb machine that's following code and it can't think. And so you feed it what you want it to know and you help it understand what you want it to understand. Okay, so that's what local content does. And last thing is reviews. And I touched on this earlier and I'll say it again. If you hear nothing else to say today, get more reviews. It is the number one thing that pushes your maps and we can do more, but our hands are tied if you're not getting reviews. Well, if customers be like, hey, we're not getting enough leads. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, you've had no reviews in the last 3 months. We keep telling you, and we offer to set this up for you. Hey, we've got this program to help you get reviews. Just do it. I don't want to do it. You got to do it because it's going to hold you back if you don't every single time. Okay, so figure out a way to get reviews and make sure that you're getting them. Okay. Sorry, my wife texted me. It's important to get back to her, as you know. So back to the planner, check out Google Maps. There's a little list here of things that you can do. It still says Google My Business Listing, but of course it's Google Business Profile now, but whatever, you know what I mean. All right. Follow the checklist. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about paid marketing opportunities. And I don't say Google ads because there's more than Google ads. And if we go to, again, our handy 15,000 plus paving company leads with last year data, 28% of the leads came from basically Google ads. They're the number one dog. So almost a third of your leads should be coming from Google ads. Every market we look at, there are paving companies running ads. You got to run ads. You just got to do it. It's going to get you leads. It's going to get you good leads. And if you're doing it right, it'll be profitable leads. So decide now you're going to do it, find the budget, and make it happen. You'll be glad you did. Okay. There are other ones, local service ads, not really for paving companies. You can kind of sneak in there with like concrete through landscapers, but most of you don't really even mess with that. So local service ads are not a thing for paving yet. I hope they fix it because there's weird things like cat ladies and like yoga and like if you see like the businesses that are eligible and like cleaning, like bizarre. Some of the companies that are in there for local service ads, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Not paving. Everybody drives on roads, but we don't have. Makes no sense. But that's what they do. Angie's all right. I mean, most of you have probably dealt with Angie, your home advisor leads. You know what that game is. You and 5 other guys are fighting over it. That's not great, but if you have extra budget, it's a good place. Yelp, hit or miss. We're a Yelp partner. I'm not a Yelp fan. I still have fake reviews up from years ago on my main digital agency. And they won't take them down. But the side that we deal with is the side that sends leads to our customers. And so that's why I'm a Yelp partner, because they do get good leads from my customers. And what I like about Yelp on this side, not 30 years, I hate that. But what they will do is for our customers, we'll ask them, hey, take a look at this market and let us know what it looks like. And they will give us the data. They'll let us know who's spending, what the expected cost per lead is, what you could spend, what you should spend. And they've been honest. They've said, you know what, this is not a good market. I wouldn't tell your customer, don't invest here. Okay. You don't really get that from Google or anybody else. And so Yelp is a great one. We've seen great results for some of our customers, and it's one to consider. Absolutely. The other thing is Facebook ads. And Facebook ads we recommend as, once you've maxed out what you can do elsewhere and you're looking for more leads, go to Facebook. They do send leads. They tend to be less warmed up. They tend to be a little more cold, but people are thinking down the road, hey, I got to do this. You might get leads. So there's lots of sources, but again, the big dog on the block is Google. And like I said, you are going to want to do Google ads. Okay. And here's some data. I don't remember when we pulled this, but what we've seen in Google ads, this is Google ads specific data, specifically for paving companies. After we've dialed in, when you start a new campaign, it tends to start high and come down a little bit if you're doing it right. But we see an average cost per lead ranges anywhere from under $19 per lead, which is amazing, to $63.35, which is still excellent for paving jobs, with an average, say, of about under $37. So across portfolio, I don't remember when we pulled this, we're seeing average cost per lead for paving companies under $37. Okay. So what does that turn into? So say you get 50 leads from Google, all right? And you only convert 20% of those. So 1 out of 5 jobs you close. Okay, that's a 20% conversion. That's 10 book jobs. Okay. And the average project is $4,000. Your average project may be different, but we've asked, and that's what other paving companies have told us. That's a pretty good number. Okay. It says 20 jobs here. That should be 10. The math is correct. So 10 jobs times 4326 is $43,000 in booked revenue. Okay. Now you might guess from an advertising campaign, you want to see an 8x return on investment from these Google ads at the $37 per lead. You're going to see, if you can close 20% of those bids, those estimates, a 24x return on investment. So you're going to spend $1,800 on those leads, and you're going to make $43,000 back in revenue. And if your margins are even 10%, just say your margins are only 10%, that's profitable business. It's not just top line revenue. If your margin is 10%, that means out of those 10 jobs, you're going to make $4,300 in profit. And so even if you're only getting 10% margin on those jobs, you've taken that $1,800, you turned into $43,000 top line revenue, and you've made $2,000 or $3,000 on that. And that's only if you're converting 20%. If you're converting closer to 30 or 40%, you are padding that bottom line. This is the math on Google ads, and this is why you got to do it. Because if you do it right, it is going to bring you jobs. It's going to make you money. Okay. Now, why do most of the pay-per-click campaigns fail? So, the main reason is that people will set up only one ad group for all their services. So they'll dump, driveways and parking lots and seal coating, and they'll just throw all those keywords in one campaign, and it fails miserably because that's not how Google's designed to work for ads. It doesn't work that way. They also won't kind of align. Like, what you want to do is have closely aligned keywords with a closely aligned ad with a closely aligned landing page. That's how it works. That's how it works best. Okay. And if you're not doing that, it's going to fail. I'll tell you the other thing. There are 2 other things that you should never, ever, ever do. When Google calls you, or someone from Google calls you, says, I'm your Google rep, run as fast as you can. They're awful. I've hired many PPC people over the years. I've worked with many of them. And I was asking, so what do you think about these Google guys, these Facebook guys? And unanimously, the response is they're awful and they give stupid advice. They are not good at this. They are bad at it. They give you terrible advice, and they will ruin your ad account. And they cause problems for us. They call our customers. They're like, hey, Mr. Customer, this paving marketers are running your stuff wrong. And most of our customers know better than to listen to these nut jobs, but some of them listen and they do what they say, and it completely wrecks their account. Don't ever listen to these people. Their only job is to get you to spend more money to Google, and it's a disaster. So don't ever do that. And number 2, if you're running your own Google ads, you will see Google giving you recommendation after recommendation after recommendation, and they're bad. Don't listen to them. They're just trying to drive up your spend. There's a reason they're a $60 billion company, because they're not stupid. But that doesn't mean that they're nice and they're trying to do you any favors. They're not. They're just trying to vacuum up your money. So you want to run ads, but don't listen to them. They're terrible. Okay, so in the planner, you've got a sheet here to check out. Again, don't run local service ads for paving. There's not enough there for you, unless you actually do some decorative concrete or some landscaping type stuff. If you're into more hardscapes, which we have a couple of some pavers. Then it might make sense. Other than that, if you're just asphalt or just concrete driveways and stuff, stay away from it. Okay. I will check for questions. You guys have been quiet. That's all right. Replay will be there. I don't need to answer questions now. You can always schedule a call with us if you have questions. We love talking to you guys. So I'm gonna keep rolling. Are you active on social media? I am not, but I am because I have a team that does it for me. Now, why do you want to be on social media? As I mentioned earlier, it does help people get to know you. So that's one aspect of it that's very important. But what it also does is it helps you get repeat business, which most of you do okay at already. You don't really need social media for that, but it helps you get referrals. So we moved a couple of years ago to a new area, and I joined all their little local groups and kind of kept an eye on what was going on. I was shocked at how often I saw people like, hey, can you tell me a good roofing company? Can you tell me a good paving company? Can you tell me a good plumber? People ask this stuff in these groups. And I would, that's not how I would shop, but people do apparently. And so you want to have an active social presence and you want people to recommend you. So if someone recommends you in that group and someone clicks your Facebook profile, if they see ghosts and crickets, they're not going to call you. But if you have an active social media presence, you got some likes, you got some engaged people, they're more likely to call you. So you want to have that presence, because especially as these younger people, if millennials and Zoomers ever actually buy houses and have driveways to pave, that's how they're going to shop for your services. So you got to be on there. And I hate it. I'm not a social media guy. I'm begrudgingly on it because I have to be, because I own an agency. But I get it. I'm old. You got my gray beard, but you got it. So another checklist here for social media. We won't linger on this. So I want to talk a little bit about converting your leads, because I think this one is very important. And the problem is that most of your traffic leaves unconverted. 50-60% is even lower. There's converting traffic, which is one conversion problem, but setting that aside, just converting the leads themselves is a whole different ballgame. And what happens is, and you paving guys are a little bit notorious for this. You don't always answer your phones. I know we're trying to call our customers. You don't answer us half the time. And I get it. You're on a job site. You don't hear the phone. You can't, you're not always available. You're busy. Totally get it. We're not offended. We chuckle about it. We know you're busy. The problem is when your potential customers are trying to call you, they're not going to wait around for that. They're going to call somebody else who answers their phone and gets back to them. And so if you don't follow up within 15 minutes, it's going to go cold like that. They're going to call someone else they can talk to, because they don't want to hear from you tomorrow. They don't want to hear from you in 3 hours. They are motivated enough to call now. They want to talk now. And if they go dark on you, it's because you didn't get back, typically because you didn't get back to them fast enough. And not only that, you've gone through the whole process, you've given an estimate, you got to chase them again. You just do. The average customer has to be followed up with 5 to 7 times before they buy. We know this. You guys buy from us, it's the same thing with you. Sometimes you buy, we have a call, you're like, hey, this is great, let's get started, and you buy. We love that. That's great. We know we're going to help you. So we love it when you sign up right away. Most of you don't. Most of you, it takes Jason chasing you around, be like, hey, you want to sign up? You want to sign up yet? No, okay, fine. 5 to 7 times. And eventually, like, the time is right, you're ready to go. Awesome. We're ready to go whenever you are. But it's the same thing with your customers. They might be getting an estimate for a project that they're thinking about 6 months from now. And they might not tell you that, because they don't feel like they have to tell you everything. So you want to follow them up. Okay. And as I mentioned before, today's customer often prefers to interact with text message. I hate that. I don't like texting businesses, but that is the way it's going. So you got to have a systems in place to do these things. And what we do, and if you're on this webinar, you experienced it, we use marketing automation. So we have automated follow-up sequences. If you schedule a call with us, there's a sequence that starts, that sends you emails. It says, hey, thanks for scheduling. Here's when your call is. Add it to your calendar. Hey, by the way, here's these case studies. And we send reminders. Hey, your call's today. If you're on this webinar, you got one just before this webinar being like, hey, the webinar's starting, right? You have to do these things, and you can build these systems for yourself too to follow up on estimates with your customers. If someone fills out a web form, do you know how many times I fill out a web form and I can't even tell if it went through and they never ever get back to me? It drives me absolutely crazy. I can think of we had some pest control. I saw my wife saw a mouse running around. She's like, you gotta get rid of those mice. Okay. So I called the pest control company. They did their thing. Yay, taking care of the mice. But then I needed to come back and do some follow-up work. We had like a bee problem, and I wanted to take care of the bees. Like, well, I already worked with these guys. I don't want to deal with somebody else. So I sent in a web form. They never called me back. I sent them 3 web forms. They've never called me back, not once. They even have a text message like, hey, text my phone. They never answer it. It's unbelievable. And it's not just these, not to pick on these guys. This has happened with multiple. I'm amazed how many companies do not answer their web forms. Now, that might be on their web company, could be, but they don't even know what's happening. But they're missing leads, they're missing business, and you are too if you're not answering these, and they will go somewhere else. And so, one easy thing you can do is when someone fills out, when you say you fill out a web form, you don't even know if it went through. It's like, did that even work? How do I know? Have a sequence that says, hey, thanks for reaching out to us. That's what we do. You fill out a form on my site, you're going to get an email. You know you did it, right? So these things are all important. They can be hard to build, but they do make a huge difference in converting your leads to actual customers. You drop the ball on these things, they're going to go buy from someone else. And it's really simple math. So we'll go back to our conversion example. So right, in the other one where you converted 20% of the leads, let's say you get some follow-up in place, you chase your estimates, you make sure you answer your phone every time, you get that conversion rate up to 40%. You've now doubled your revenue. You doubled your conversion rate, you doubled your revenue. And so now on those 20 jobs, you're bringing in $86,000 in revenue. Same spend, same $1,800 to get those 50 leads in. You've now made $86,000. If your margins are 10%, your net profit there is $8,600, which means instead of making about $2,000, you made about $6,000 profit from that $1,800 spend. Just because you fixed that conversion rate of your leads to projects. These little things make a huge difference. And it's just an example that makes no sense to me. I mean, I could kind of stare at it and figure it out, but you just build these sequences out, and these are things that we can help you do if you're a customer. We don't have a lot of demand for it, but I think people should do it. Keep in front of people. It's going to get you more business. Okay. Along those lines, and we're just talking about email marketing. So part of email marketing is following up with people when they opt into you. But it's other things too, like after you do a project, send an email request and review. Remember how you need a system in place to get those reviews? Send those emails. Send a monthly newsletter. If you get your repeat business now, but people are getting shorter and shorter time frames, less and less loyal, and you really can't count on that repeat business. And I'm guilty of this too. I forget. I'm like, who the heck is my HVAC company? I don't know. I wouldn't know except they email me every month. I don't even read the email, but I see their name like, oh, there's my HVAC guys again. I don't care what they have to say right now, but I'll remember who they are when it's time to have my furnace, serviced, right? And so, especially your commercial guys, they need another parking lot done. They need another location done. If you stay top of mind, they're going to come back to you, and they do every way. But there are some of your customers that don't come back to you because they forget who you were, and rather than trying to remember all of that, they're just going to search again and find someone new. So email marketing is important in the sense that it just kind of helps you stay in front of your customers. Okay, so there's, again, in the planner, there's a little checklist here for you to work through. And really the last thing I'm going to cover is, do you have the tools in place to track your return on investment? So if you're going to spend all this money getting leads and stuff, how do you know it's working? Well, you don't if you're not measuring it. So you want to keep an eye on things like Google Analytics. We publish GeoGrids, which is how you're doing in the maps. We keep track of the cost per lead for Google Ads. It's extremely important to do that, or you don't know if it's working. You want to track the stuff. You want to know your numbers, because you can't improve your numbers if you don't know them. So again, going back to your way original beginning here, when we start talking about how you do your planning, if you don't know what your conversion rates are, you can't possibly do your planning. You have to estimate, and an estimate is better than doing nothing. Do the estimate for this year and track your numbers, so that when we have this call again at the end of 2024, You're going to start planning out your 2025. Now you know what your numbers are, and you can really drill in and you can really make it accurate for your 2025 planning. Okay. And again, in the planner, here's a little checklist for you. So to recap, this is your growth roadmap. Well, we've talked about these things. You got to get your traffic. You got to get your SEO right, especially your maps, especially your PPC. Get those things cranking. Send emails to your existing customers so they remember you. Maximize your conversion. Put some automation in place so that people, don't get lost. They don't fill out a form and forget about them. Make sure you're following up with them. Work on your reputation, get those reviews, and then look at your results. What's my cost per lead? How can I improve it? And what's my return on investment? How can I improve it? Do I need to improve my conversion rate? Do I need to spend more? What do I need to do to get better results next time around? And you're right back at the beginning, driving more leads. Internalize and do this process, and over time, you will triple your sales. There is no doubt about it. Okay, so that's really the main thing I want to cover. You could drop your questions in the comments now as I wrap it up if you want me to address anything before we go. I want you to take away some action items here. What are some things that you are going to do? Make your 24 plan, understand your numbers, track your numbers, get reviews. Reverse that, put reviews at the top of the list. Get reviews. Get your plan, know your numbers, keep doing it. Okay, that's what you need to do. So I set out to cover the new challenges, setting goals, knowing your numbers, and what you should do. We went through all these things. We've done our job. Now, if you would like us to help you with this, we do offer a free online marketing plan review. And what we'll do is we will basically do a competitive analysis of your area. So we will look at, what your Google Maps look like, what your competitors look like, what your rankings looks like for critical SEO keywords, what's going on with Google Ads in your area, and we'll help you put a plan together for what we think you need to focus on to get better results. And so to do that, give us a call or just go to pavingmarketers.com/apply now, schedule a call with us, and we'll put together that presentation for you, which you can use to make your plan for 2024. And it's free. We don't charge you for it. So we'll do the plan. We'll give it to you. We'd like to help you with it. But if you're not ready or you want to try to do it yourself, take the plan and do it. That's okay. We have people who do that. Okay, so paymarketers.com, apply now. So I want to thank you for joining. The replay link will go out tomorrow if you want to watch it again. And thanks for spending your time here watching this, whether live with me here in person or if you've just watched the replay. And I really hope you have a successful 2024 for yourself personally and for your paving company. Thanks again. And this concludes our presentation.